Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are returning to Grand Tactician, the Civil War, our Let's Play series playing as the Confederacy. This is episode number 47 of this particular series, and the war is going very well for us. The Confederacy is on the verge of victory. We're trying to finish up occupying some key cities, both in the East and the West. We're besieging Philadelphia, which is the second Union capital because we already took Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. We've won a number of victories. Not every victory. The AI has defeated us more than 10 times, but we've defeated them more than 40 times. So obviously it's kind of going one way. And we're really just trying to finish up the war in this episode. If we can win this game, win this campaign as a victory for the Confederacy and earn Confederate independence. We will see if that's the case. We've got at least one more battle in this particular video, and I don't think I have to introduce any more because I always talk way too much in these. This is a long-running series, and if you're interested in it, there's plenty of links in the description. As always, this is from a live stream, or not always, but at least in this case, this is from a live stream on my Twitch channel. There's a link in the description if you're interested in those. And without further ado, let's just jump in. We are coming off of a major victory in Western Maryland. General Longstreet's corps suffered heavy casualties, but inflicted egregious casualties, including several Union units which surrendered to us against a federal force that was trying to push south into Virginia. And now we're returning to our campaign in the spring of 1863. Colonel Kentney has fallen into disgrace in the eyes of his men and the public. So Longstreet's boys took a beating. The enemy lost more. The enemy's national morale drops by 1.38%. Ultimate General Civil War is great. But it's very scripted. I think the AI is a little better, but it's because it's very scripted. Grand Tactician's AI is not as good, but it is not as scripted. So it's kind of a very different type of game. All right, so Confederate forces are victorious. Let's go ahead and read the post-battle summary. Well, first off, the following generals or commanders were wounded: Brigadier General Samuel Cooper, Alfred Hobby, Daniel Ruggles, James Cantney, and Henry Sibley. No one was killed, though. For you guys who are newer to the series, General Jackson is already dead. So is General Ewell. Meanwhile, the battle... That wasn't Fort Mifflin. That was Harper's Ferry. The Battle of Harper's Ferry has ended with the Army of the Potomac retreating in panic. My command has earned us a total victory with the enemy army running for their lives. The enemy has reportedly suffered a total of 12,768 men, thereof 1,291 killed, 5,878 captured. The morale is believed to be unstable. So that's actually 7,000 total, or 7,100 men permanently removed from their roles. Wounded troops eventually return to their units. Killed and captured obviously don't. So that's a huge victory for us in terms of 7,000 total casualties that are permanent. Our own forces were 1,800 missing and 1,000 killed. So 2,800 to 7,000 in terms of permanent casualties. We captured 7,800 rifles, 19 guns, 6,111 men. I have entered the prison camps. Not sure where the extra 300 came between here and here, but I guess the reverse. We didn't just like off them. Where are these guys going? 5,000. 5,000. Okay. So these are the corps that were engaged. So I'm hoping they withdraw north. We'll see. The retreat mechanic can be odd sometimes. Yes, they are retreating north. Good. Okay, so that secures the Shenandoah Valley for us. So they retreat north. We go ahead and we take a look at the front line report. Solidifies things here into southern Pennsylvania in terms of the zones of control. Second Corps to Magruder is ready for a fight. Barely. Meanwhile, Lee's boys are... It's the Battle of Wilmington and this fort. They're actually doing okay. Good job, Lee. Despite being outnumbered considerably. Magruder's really not in good shape for another battle, but given we just defeated their left-wing advance with these three corps all running... Do we know where these other corps are going? Looks like they're just sitting there. Okay, so Longstreet needs to regroup badly. His readiness is very poor. That means our left flank is very vulnerable, but I'm assuming the enemy's not just going to like charge back in there after those defeats. I hope. So let's do this. Let's send Magruder up to join via rail. Lee outside Philly. And maybe we can fight a battle with better odds if we get 21,000 reinforcements there. Disaster at Wilmington. North Carolina squadron retreat. 1 ship lost. That's the first time I've seen the AI use navies. And the Army of Pennsylvania is fighting over here in the left flank. Where? Where are we fighting? Hey, look at that. We surrounded these guys. Down near Nashville. Our left wing still hasn't moved on Covington. Let's auto-resolve this. We outnumber them considerably. And see what happens. Let's hope we don't lose the battle for Nashville. Victory at Port Nashville. Let's pause here for a sec. So, what's the battle report? They suffered 500 casualties. We suffered 500. That's a very light battle, but we won the battle. So they're retreating, I think. Yeah. But they've also kind of... Well, this is all Kentucky, so they haven't really broken in. But you can see here now that they've broken our hold on Fort Scales over here. This whole situation is not so good on the left flank. They've got just a horde of armies ready to move down. 5,000 men there. 3,000 there. 7,000 there. 13,000. 13,000. 12,000. 12,000. 22,000. 3,200. 12,000. 1,600. Okay. All right. Meanwhile, what's national morale look like? 30 to 85. So we are not far from a victory. Meanwhile, what happened down here near New Bern? Cape Cod Squadron? Or where was that? Wilmington? So did they take the city? They defeated our squadron there. It didn't look like they took the city yet. Are they moving? The army there isn't moving, so they haven't tried to push south yet. Price and Johnson are at destination, which means they've stopped retreating, I believe. So we're going to bring Walker over here with his 20,000 men to see if he can stop the... Where is this army going? The Army of Pennsylvania, are they on ships? Like, how are they moving through our lines like that? What is going on? Also, we have a bunch more weapons arriving. 10,000 Fayettevilles have been completed. I don't know what's going on here. My lines in the west feel a little bit flimsy. All right, so the Second Corps has joined Lee, or at least gotten close to Lee. Not actually part of the siege yet. I don't know what I need to do to get them to be part of the siege. But we might have a battle for Philly coming up here soon. Longstreet's regrouped and gotten his readiness at least to decent to deficient. The Army of the Potomac is regrouping near Gettysburg after their recent defeat. The Army of Virginia here with its 5,000 men, we're going to move them over toward Frederick to block any drives south. I'm thinking we should pull maybe a brigade or two out of the garrisons near Baltimore and DC. It'll get us another 4,000 troops in those frontline units. What is going on here? Issuing more bonds because we have no money. All right, so these guys should be retreating. And they are, because we had already beaten them. Pause. All right. Sometimes things happen so goddamn fast when you've got time compression on. All right. So, a whole bunch of enemy troops moving around. They're rebuilding Fort Scales by the looks of it, but a big glob of soldiers here. Army of Western Louisiana has moved in behind them and taken Hopkins. Looks like Bowling Green fell, or no, that's Munfordville. Still federal hands. Left wing is trying to occupy Covington. Will that end the war? Could that end the war? Let's wait and see. Covington has fallen. National morale is at 27. 27. Just cross the river and go take Cincinnati. Can you do that? I think if we take Cincinnati, the war's over. I don't even think Philly matters at this point. They've got a couple of armies moving into the Cumberland Gap on the left. Longstreet might get forced into another goddamn battle. Meanwhile, it looks like Magruder joined the siege near the fort near Wilmington, which guards D.C., or not D.C., Philly. And the siege is going well for us based on that strength report. I have a hunch another battle will trigger before we take Cincinnati, but let's... Oh, it's going to take like 6 days to get up there, huh? Can we go take Cincy? We're just on the other side of the river. I'm not even paying attention to what else is happening. I just want to take fucking Cincinnati. They haven't moved any troops there. Cotton trade slows down, record high prices. We implemented that policy. Cincy has fallen. Federal morale is at 25. Shouldn't that break their morale? Or yeah, national morale. Below 25? Okay. What else do I have to fucking take? Oh my god. I suppose taking Wilmington would do it. Do we want to... I don't know that I want to try and assault the fort there. Looks like the armies that were advancing on the left toward Cumberland fell back. If they were just the 9,000 or so that I thought they were, they didn't have the strength to assail Longstreet. Go take Columbus. How is Indianapolis only worth 5? I just want to win the damn war. Just end it. We've crushed them and crushed them and crushed them again. We got the French intervention up to 67%. Well, one more battle might work. They have been using them, but their supply, and we've defeated them multiple times. So there's some supply challenges they're dealing with too. I mean, it's not like we defeated one of these corps just a week or two ago near Nashville. A lot of these troops are not up to full strength. I don't know. I don't know if they just don't think they can advance against our position here or not. I'm not sure. We will be outnumbered by by about 4,000 infantry. Let's fight it. I thought we were going to wrap the stream up, guys, but I guess we'll fight one more. I think if we win this battle, we win the war. Maybe. And these are some of the troops in central Tennessee and Kentucky. So this is 30,000 of the 100,000 or so we came up with. So they are using, well, I guess they're defending here. In your U.S. game, the U.S. started a world war? How? What'd they do? Go to war with France and Britain and whatever? Yeah, I mean, we could lose too. Is it a defensive battle? It is. I think they have to come up this one main road. They're going to come from the left. All right, so we have some engineering points we can use. Lewis Armistead. All right, so I think they're going to come up this way. Yeah, that's where they are. Hey, look, we can see you. That's where they are. Now, they could double back and come around. I probably don't want to deploy there. Let's do this. Let's move Armistead in a single line. And move him back to this wood line here. Let's also set up a parapet. God damn it, I did it again. They're backwards. Okay, so it's not left to right, it's right to left. Got it. What about Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought Toa? They're going to come down this roadway, I think. Well, that's all my entrenching abilities anyway. I don't think they're going to move onto that left flank. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. If they're here, they're probably going to come right at me. Our cavalry has sharps, right? Colts and Springfield musketoons. Maybe not. Okay, well. We'll deploy them behind these fences, dismounted. Just to make sure we don't get flanked. Okay. Are the Federals gonna come right at us or not? Maybe they're not. Oh, there they come. Here they come, boys. The artillery's a little exposed out here. But they're coming right at us. It'll be interesting to see if they charge my artillery. I positioned my artillery so that it could fire into the flank of any troops that are moving toward my infantry. The problem is that leaves them pretty exposed in the event that the enemy comes for the artillery. But the infantry, at least in theory, can fire to support from their current position. And hit the enemy in the flank if they try and go for our artillery. That's the theory. Set everybody to long range fire. And see how the enemy deploys here. Are they on a reverse slope and we can't see them anymore? Oh, they're just reloading. Yeah, the cavalry seems to be moving toward my artillery. Step these guys out of line to come protect them. They may just charge the artillery, we'll see. Franz Siegel arrives. So the enemy doesn't have all their troops on the field yet. Some of my guys are still using mixed muskets? What the fuck? That's not good. That's real bad. What's the range of those things? 250 yards? Fayetteville's got a range of 500. All right, I'm going to move Finnegan. Joseph Finnegan. Oh, they're going to try and go around my line altogether, aren't they? They're like, hey, we see your defensive line, and we're not going to play that game. Maybe I can lure them into attacking me by having my infantry engage their cavalry. We have engaged the enemy. Advance out of your trench line. The enemy doesn't want to come for us. Cavalry's taking fire while the infantry moves to flank. Claims it's a minor defeat. Why? Their morale is slightly better than ours? Okay, well. That could be a thing, I suppose. Maybe? We'll see. I mean, we'll see how long it takes them to bring up the rest of their troops, but if we can engage them with superior numbers, that could be very helpful. Also, since we advanced these troops, we caught this brigade out of position. They're like almost in a... God, it's almost like a column formation. They're melting! They're melting! Well, they just fired a volley. We've already lost 400 men. Well, we lured them into attacking us head on, rather than going after our artillery. These guys with the mixed muskets not doing so hot. They're also like veterans. They're not just rookies who haven't fought before. Ledbetter is such a great name for a commander of firearms infantry. These guys have suffered heavy casualties. This brigade with the Mixed muskets is getting wrecked. Meanwhile, Finnegan, these guys are getting wrecked, and this cavalry is getting shot at from the rear while they're dismounted and from the flank. What's their melee look like? Strong melee. I'd rather they just take the punishment. They're gonna rout, but whatever. Shit, you guys are gonna come up on my... You guys are gonna rout, probably. See how long it takes them to bring their cavalry up on my artillery here. Great to fire a whiff of grape at this enemy cavalry, though. I guess also to that effect, let's get these boys mounted up and over here. Assuming the enemy's not marching up this road toward them, which they could be, since we do know that at least one of their forces, whatever size that is newly arrived-ish. So we routed the first. They just ran. One of the first, anyway. They drove back one of my batteries. We routed the... Oh, wow. We wrecked that brigade. So their cavalry is going to destroy my artillery just again, just like last time. There's iron discipline. Another battery. Why are they not shooting at these guys? Can they not because of the... how close they are to my boys? Well, if you can't shoot, then I guess shoot at the boys in front of you if you can't shoot at. Steele's brigade's gonna rout any moment, but at least he's buying me time to fire into the flank of these brigades. There goes my arty. Can I order some of these guys to move? Okay. A lot of commanders being wounded. For us is dropping, probably because of all those artillery units routing. Although, yeah, that's what's worse. Federal have lost more, and at least a higher percentage of their force. Shoot those horsemen down at once. Charges. I outnumber them 2-1, and I'm assuming they're using some shitty melee weapons. The battle that should decide the war. Not going as well as I would like it to. We're better off just waiting and shooting, I think. Alright, so steel finally broke. But he bought time for us to really shred up some of these lead federal units. 800 casualties. Oh no, but now you're gonna be in trouble. This brigade here is gonna... Finnegan is gonna be in real shit now. Maybe you can charge the enemy cavalry before that brigade on your flank wrecks you. Go get him, boys! Routed units nearby, flanking fire and casualties. Those are not good modifiers. We'll see if you can break the federal cavalry, which should not be good in a melee. Nope. They broke you. Oh, that's not great. By the way, is Armistead? Okay, so he's finally moving. Or not Armistead, Loring's division. Meanwhile, Kershaw's cavalry's finally coming up. We are losing this fight so far. The enemy casualties are way outstripping us, but the morale is not good. Alright, so routed this battery of theirs, thank God. Meanwhile, their lead brigade here is taking some punishment. Somehow their other cavalry brigade, which we absolutely shattered, is happy as clam, coming back into the fight or something. Looks like it. But I don't know whose Hawes division was. It's possible Siegel's course coming up the down road. So let's move Nathaniel over there. We'll bring Fitzhugh up. Routed these guys. Should be permanently, I would think. They lost 300 out of... They have 300 left out of 850 original soldiers. But again, you didn't lose that many men, so maybe you can rally. The loss resistance is still pretty high. Melt. Okay. Battle still counts as a minor defeat for us. Casualty percentages for them is getting real high, at least for the moment. Federal routes -4, ours are -10. Losses are -4 for us, 8 for them. Why we have no objective points yet? We hold the objective. More casualties for them than us. This is like a frickin' Frederick's Brigade charge. They're like slowly advancing on our line as they all die. Although they are doing some damage to D's brigade, which doesn't have a ton of experience, so they will be less likely to hold. Especially as the enemy closes. But they routed before we did. And there's the rest of their force straight ahead of us. Our own troops are coming out of the woods now. Maybe we can overwhelm their flank. That routing of their brigade just ticked things a lot closer to an advantage for us. We're doing this first brigade here, and we're also engaging their first battery, which hasn't been able to fire quite yet because they, I guess, were covered up by their own men. Cavalry has arrived in their rear. Let's finish off that detachment. Fitzhugh-Lee. Took a volley to the fucking face. Can you just overrun these guys? Like, what's going on here? I don't quite understand why they're not. Oh, now they're in melee. But they're losing horrifically. The detachment at least will be overrun. Can you get the fuck out of there? No? Alright, well. No, you can't do anything? You're just gonna sit there stuck? Great. Alright, it says major victory now. I'm skeptical of that, but we've at least routed enough of their troops to get the game to start thinking in better terms for us. That'll probably change when Fitzhugh routes. I hate the retreat mechanic in this game. I really do. There's no reason Fitzhugh should be stuck here. He's basically got to fight or whatever. When you're in contact with the enemy, unless you have your commander nearby, I guess you can't issue a retreat order, which is somewhat problematic. And he's got Colt revolving rifles, so they've got really bad range because they're basically revolvers. They fire revolver cartridges. In any event, we're routing more and more their men. And there goes Fitzhugh. So it'll be interesting to see if the game gives us a victory before their other... they've got to have more troops based on the intel that are coming up. But at the moment, we're getting real close. Their morale is plummeting, so we might be able to pull out a victory before... Plastic, it has to do with command radiuses. So if you issue orders to units that are outside the command of their commanding general, then yeah, it limits your ability to issue orders once they're in contact. It's supposed to simulate the way that like command structures work, but it can be a little bit kludgy at times. All right, the enemy's retreating. So we won the battle. Second Brigade wiped out 2,300 men. We forced someone to surrender. Good. That massively changes the complexion of this battle. So a major victory here. Major General George B. McClellan's force of 24,000 infantry and 6,500 cavalry didn't all deploy to the battlefield, I don't think. 8,000 total casualties, including 2,200 prisoners, versus 2,100 casualties for us. The Battle of Columbus. And that should decide the war. No, you're right, Plastic, but on the flip side, like, so from an individual regiment perspective, you're right. The game, it can be counterproductive. But also, like, if units get isolated and you're it's supposed to be kind of like a role-playing element, right? If you're the commanding general, your brigadiers aren't going to get orders from you to do anything, and so it's like kind of up to them. Eventually they will retreat and you can rally them, but you know, I don't know. The game all works via couriers and line of sight and things like that. So I always lose a lot of guns, don't I? In my previous battles, no, but I don't know if it's a new patch or what. The enemy gets much more aggressive at like attacking my guns today than normal. So I'm not sure. All right, so 5,400 rifles captured. 7,800 enemy casualties. 4,000 were captured, so that's a lot. All right, French intervention 67. British is only 43. I've never seen French intervention that high. National morale dropped below 25. So I don't know if we've got to wait a couple days. The war is over. Union sues for peace. Confederate armies triumphant. The campaign is over. Do we get like a little voice acted thing? Or is that it? Oh, yeah.
We are fighting for independence, and that, or extermination, we will have. Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederate States of America.
Voice acting.
Apostles of Disunion.
The worst but best voice actor ever.
Let's just enjoy the moment.
All the Confederacy asked was to be let alone. Instead, the states with which they were lately confederated attempted a subjugation by arms.
Well, from the Confederate point of view, I suppose.
But the sword in Southern hand was grasped tightly, and it was against this sword the Union, under its stubborn leader Lincoln, threw itself. Relying on the divine power that they believed covered with its protection, the cause they held just, the Southern soldiers struggled for their freedom, independence, and self-government. And in this struggle, the Confederacy achieved the unbelievable. On the brink of an abyss into which they did not wish to look, against all odds, as all the might of the Union crashed against them, the ranks of Southern soldiers held firm.
I am a voice actor.
But it would be only after the bloody and heroic struggle for freedom, the Confederacy's true demeanor would be revealed. The nation was born from rebellion and extreme states' rights principles, and even during a war of survival against a common foe, plagued by internal feuds and petty rivalries, the apostles of disunion would find no comfort within another union of states centrally governed. The idea of men depriving other men of their freedom would not succeed in the changing world. The question of slavery, the so-called divine institution the Confederacy was based on to protect, in its moral impossibility, would sooner rather than later threaten to implode the quarrelsome nation.
Implode.
And when that time comes, the Confederacy will be surrounded only by enemies, like hungry wolves, looking for any sign of weakness to exploit.
So basically the Confederacy is going to have their own civil war, and then the North is going to reconquer them. Hell yeah! Thanks for the bits, Cannibal. Nom 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 nom. Abraham Lincoln Jr. conquers the South. or whatever his son's name who survived. Is that it? Are we done? Looks like it's over. It's over. I don't know if it's supposed to be a white screen like this. This is weird, but let's take a look at the final results for the Civil War in Grand Tactician, the Civil War. Final results, national morale, 24 for the Union, 84 for the Confederacy. So the Confederacy never came close to breaking. The Union obviously did. Their morale broke at 25. National support of the whatever cause, I guess, within the states, 77 to 80. So that was still high. I don't really understand that. I guess it's based on occupation, which for the North is probably never going to drop a ton. For the South, it certainly could. Morale of the armies, 63 versus 69. I guess both armies just were kind of tired of dying. 27 loyal states for the Union, 17 for the Confederates. We expanded our states by conquering Maryland, and I think at the end of the day, we probably would have gotten Kentucky. I mean, we took Cincinnati even in Ohio, and we took Louisville, and we took, I think we took Louisville. I don't know. We took like the whole eastern part of the state and the western part with Columbus. So I'm assuming in any peace deal, we'd get Kentucky. We also took Missouri, so we'd get that. Meanwhile, men fielded, total men raised, or I guess in the field, I think this is at the end, 286,316 Federals, 205,671 Confederates. So we got much closer to parity than realistic, but that was probably because we kept winning battles, so the Union wasn't able to get many troops into their armed forces while we were able to always have high morale. Naval tonnage doesn't really matter. They had almost 200,000 tons of shipping. They really built the Navy up, but they didn't use it much, which is interesting. We ended up not building a single ship, and it didn't matter. Military experience, 54 to 58. We fought a lot of battles. So did they. So we had high experience. They did win 12 battles against us. So for those of you who say the AI doesn't win battles, not true. They won a few. We won 50. So not very close. Total casualties, almost 300,000 federal casualties, 292,248. That's not that far off from historical. I think historically the Union lost about somewhere between 300 and 400,000 casualties, and I think the Confederates lost 200 to 300, but my memory is a little foggy. So it's kind of in the realm of what you'd expect, especially given the war ended by 1863. So this game went from April 12th, 1861 to June 7th, 1863. That was our Civil War. Fort Sumter, April 12th. June 7th was the day that they surrendered after the Battle of Columbus. Total, yes, 700-ish, but like there's a lot of fogginess around those numbers. I've seen, I want to say 400 to 600,000, or maybe it was 500 to 700,000. There's a wide range in what like people generally speculate. I mean, this wasn't an era of great censuses or accuracy in numbers. Yeah, so Cannibal, those numbers may be a little bit fuzzy in terms of like true casualties, especially if you start factoring in like civilian deaths or slave deaths or other things like that. But 620, so if you're saying that's about 620 historically, we ended up with 400-ish, just shy of 400. We ended just shy of 500, but we ended in a 2-year war rather than a 3 or 4-year war. Trade warfare, 142 million versus 1.6 billion. I don't really understand what that means. Shows the accumulated and estimated cost of the war. So the cost of the Confederacy was way higher. I guess we did cut off cotton exports at one point. And the blockade hurt us. Is that adjusted for inflation? Because it's got a parentheses number, 1.6 billion parentheses 452. Is that like currency exchange? I don't really know what that is. Anyway, economy actually was relatively close by the end. So who knows? What happens if we hit inspect campaign? Oh, we just see the map. So there's the end of the war. Western Kentucky is ours. Eastern Kentucky is ours. We've got a chunk of central. So I'm going to assume when the war ends, we get Missouri, which has already joined the Confederacy in this game. Kentucky didn't join the Confederacy, but I'm going to guess we get it as well. We also get Maryland as we occupy the whole damn state. And then West Virginia never breaks off, and we hold that area. So That's the way the war ended. It does look like they deployed a second army down to North Carolina. So the army of Kentucky can get, you got to feel bad for these guys. Like, they just get sent down here to starve. They ended up coming into New Bern. So they ended up having like 20,000 soldiers in amphibious assaults, which, like, good for them, but we didn't fight at all down there. They never went for New Orleans. And they really didn't seem to leverage their Navy a whole lot. Like, if they had made a sort of concerted effort to take some of these coastal forts and whatnot, it would be interesting to see how that affects your economy. We got pretty close to French intervention, 67%, largely because of our policy, which would have supported them in Mexico. I'm curious if we hadn't done the letters of marque, and that still wouldn't have gotten us that close. So whatever. But yeah, they did not take New Orleans. Nope. And I didn't really show you guys who are new today this weapons aspect, but you actually construct weapons. So we had 1.2 thousand Sharps rifles in. Oh, those must have been captured because we never built those. Or did we? We actually did it. We had an order for 2,000, but we never finished it. We had 1.9 thousand Sharps carbines. We were also working on another order for 1,000. Jocelyn, what the hell is that? I've never heard of the Jocelyn rifled carbine, but apparently we captured some of those from the Yankees. It's a rapid-fire breech-loading carbine chambered for 56 rimfire cartridge, considered too complicated for massed use. Interesting. Federals must have built that. Manured carbines, you can see here. What did we end the stockpile with? All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Grand Tactician and this series. We won the war. It sounds like, based on the description, and I mean, I had some snide remarks in there, but it sounds like the game is basically saying, hey, the Confederacy won its independence, but because of the nature of its nation, you know, a heavily states' rights organized nation in an era, you know, basically they had to use federal power to win the war. It's a states' rights government. It is dealing with intense external pressure against the institution of slavery. The South is doomed to collapse into a civil war amongst itself. And at the time it does that, external threats, most likely the Union, will pounce on it. That seems to be the game's narrative on Confederate victory. So victory, but a long-term probable failure for the Confederacy, and a Confederacy that is bound to the institution of slavery and states' rights is not going to fare very well in the remainder of the 19th century. And I'd say historically that's probably true. I don't think the Confederacy would have boded well long-term. But who knows? I mean, there's some interesting alternative histories out there if you're interested in checking that kind of literature out. Anyway, guys, I hope you did enjoy this series. Thank you very much for tuning in for so many episodes. And maybe we'll come back and do a Union series where we really focus on naval assaults. But I think for a while, we're going to give the game a bit of a break. And that's all I got for you. So until next time, as always, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching. And until next time, I'm out.